Hey, hey, hey. I hope you guys enjoy these, what I'm calling podcast shorts for my Burnout to All Out community. This is just a little peek behind the curtain of the coaching that goes on inside of my programs. We're bringing to you some of the best nuggets and coaching I'm giving within hot seats of all of our different programs, whether it's our LinkedIn Method Academy, our mini mastermind business basics, all the way up to our higher level mastermind. If you're hearing some of these questions and you're like, man, I wish I could get my burning question answered by Melissa. Hey, guess what? You could be featured on my podcast. If you've got a question that you want answered and you submit it to my team and we pick it, we will bring you here to the podcast for our podcast shorts and do a hot seat with you. Where can you submit your questions? Send them to teamburnout2allout.co. We'll make sure we drop that in the show notes for our podcast shorts. And I hope that you guys find as much value in these shorts as our clients do inside the program. Need some effective tactical advice that actually helps you get results and makes a real difference in your life and business? You've come to the right place. If you're finding yourself here today, it means you're getting ready to gain serious traction in your business, rapidly multiply your income and impact, and you're ready to make it happen while living all out. Guys, I'm Melissa Hinault, your trustworthy corporate dropout turned six-figure business burnout turned happy and healthy CEO of a multi-million-dollar online business. And you're listening to the Burnout to All Out podcast. On this show, we're serving up innovative growth strategies, simple implementation methods to put them into practice, and action-stimulating inspiration tailored specifically for the modern entrepreneur. Let's dive in. All right, Tiffany, how's it going, my friend?
Hi. Oh, it's going, well, it's kind of slow. I hit a bump. So basically I slowed down and then my impression and kind of like everything slowed down. So I'm like restarting. So just a little bit of background to everybody else. I'm a Canadian immigration consultant. I'm also a Canadian senior tech recruiter. So this is my 5th month. So I'm finishing up in October. So I still have slightly more time. So I'm going to give it my best shot in September. So far, just to share with the newbies, like if you do the work, it really helps. I'm glad that I finally completed the course as intended. I should have done it much faster. So if you are new, I would say don't get so hold up in terms of the first few modules. I think I spent way too much time in the first few modules. Like the gem is really like in the contents, the network growth. Once you get something going for your LinkedIn profile, just get going. One of the things I still struggle with is the video content posting. I still haven't mustered up enough courage to put my face and do my personal post on LinkedIn. I think I'm trying to muster up enough courage to do it by this month.
Why do you think that is?
Why? I have this fear about deep fake. Like if I put my video out there, my photo out there, someone's going to use my photo and do something with it. So I'm like, oh no.
Oh, so you think somebody's going to like take your photo and do something with it? Like from a risk standpoint?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So even from my Facebooks and all that, I mean, unless it's my personal Facebook, I don't post my pictures on Instagram, social media in general. So like LinkedIn to post a video is like going to be a huge, huge step.
Have you had your identity stolen before, or have you experienced someone around you having this happen?
I've seen people with stolen identity, and there are scammers in the LinkedIn space. Mm-hmm. They will connect with you on LinkedIn and they look like my avatar, and then they are not. By the time we moved the conversation to WhatsApp, it took a while to realize that they are basically scared. So I'm kind of like worried on that front. So that's keeping me away from that. But just to share with you, like the good wins when I was doing this enthusiastically in the first few months, I actually got a instructor job from a career college in Canada to do like Canadian immigration course. And I did that first course with them and they liked it very much. They now want me to do like career coaching course for their school. So yeah, so I'm thinking like seriously, because Canadian immigration takes a long time. And in fact, it doesn't pay that well based on the time and effort we spend. I'm thinking that I might pivot in terms of the LinkedIn profile to go more into career coaching for like newcomers into Canada. I'm also trying to make full use of the experience that I get from the career college when I'm doing presentation skills to teach the students how to prepare for interviews and job hunt in Canada. So that's where I am right now. But since my time is running out, so I'm asking this one question that everybody is very keen on. It's basically in terms of your advice, in terms of how to connect with my key avatars. So I have a few avatars that I want to work progressively. One is we do in spousal sponsorship, which is basically Canadian who married foreigners, because those are probably like the best people who wants to come to Canada. And I came from spousal sponsorship myself. But they are a bit difficult to target because like, how do you know if they married a Canadian? Yeah. So do you have any suggestion for that avatar? And the other one that I want to connect with are international students who want to study in Canada, as well as international students, as well as international workers who are currently in Canada. So these are the few groups which are a little bit hard to target, but yeah, just want to pick your brain in terms of how you would go in terms of like power partners to get these connections in. Right now, I'm actually making a lot of use by making my recruiter connection, basically because it's easier to connect to tech professionals in Canada and hopefully they're friends because there are so many immigrants in Canada that they have friends and family back in their home countries that are connected to their network. So I'm using more like that sort of connection. And it is helping to some extent in terms of like, I have 3 inquiries last week. They basically did a LinkedIn search. And because I was active posting or something like that, I'm like the second result when they search. And the fact that I'm also a tech recruiter, I seem to be attracting a lot more tech professionals who want to move to Canada, which wasn't my intention in the first case, but yeah, why not? But the only thing is a lot of them are not in the, like, all ready to move. They are like planning. So some are waiting for 2 years. Yeah, that's like pipeline, but I need to look for someone more. Yeah, closer to the pipeline. So yeah, so would really like your input on this.
So when we think of spousal sponsorship, obviously it's not something you could just search for on LinkedIn, but let's talk as a group about what are some power partners, what are some key players in getting a spousal sponsorship. So I'm not familiar with the whole process, but let's say someone lives in Canada, they're engaged to someone outside of Canada, or they're planning on getting married this year, next 6 months, whatever. Is that an ideal client for you?
That would be a pipeline. Okay, so there are a few scenarios. One, they are married. They are currently both in Canada, that we can do the in Canada sponsorship.
Okay.
And the other one is they are married, but they are currently living separated, one in Canada and one in their home country. And the other scenario is they are both outside Canada. Because like me, my husband and I were in Singapore for like 10 years before I moved here. And I didn't apply because the thing is I'm not coming here, so I didn't intend to. But there is one story that really strikes me that people who are staying out should seriously consider doing this sooner, because I have an inquiry recently and husband is Canadian citizen, child is Canadian citizen, wife is not. They have been staying in Hong Kong for the last 10 years. They were planning to come back during COVID, didn't come back, but unfortunately didn't start their application at all. COVID hits. everything slowed down, and the husband met an accident and died. And the wife has no more routes to Canada.
Wow. All right, guys, I left my corporate career and took everything I knew and built $1 million business on the internet in just 19 months. And you can too. My name is Melissa Henal, and I've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs escape the corporate cage and create the business and life they deserve. Too often, building a business can be like jumping out of the fire and into the frying pan. Can you relate? Without the right strategies, you can work tirelessly, feel like you're missing out on life, and not have much to show for it. Even worse, you're no closer to finding the freedom that you wanted than when you were stuck in that job. I'm here to change that for you. On May 13th, I am hosting a 7-day virtual intensive for people ready to build a business that gives them the freedom and life they've been looking for. So how are we going to do this? Over a jam-packed week, I'll spend about 90 minutes each day to reset your strategies and build the clarity to drive the results and profits you desire. First, we'll build a foundation of lead generation and audience growth to connect with the perfect people. Then we're going to grow by implementing an optimized sales conversion strategy that drives results. Then we're going to scale your success with an optimized offer ladder and retain clients for longer. And we're going to do this live with hot seats and Q&As to give you the proven processes to build your dream business without the burnout. Best of all, it's completely free to join. You deserve a business that serves you and not one that you have to serve. And when you have the right strategies and processes, you can create a business that does this. Join me free on May 13th to build, grow, and scale a business that will set you free. Yeah. Wow.
So I think that's a powerful story to show like Canadian citizens who are married to non-Canadians outside Canada that they should get it started, because you don't want to wait for the one day when something happened to your spouse and you can't move. So I think that, but it's like, it's really hard to reach this group. Like, how do you reach this?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I got it. So I think that the question would be, in all of these scenarios, a brainstorming exercise for you, think back to when you were in that scenario. Who are some of the key stakeholders that you had points of contact with to help you get through the process? Was it just an immigration officer, or were there attorneys involved? Are they consulting with, like, maybe there's a move involved, maybe there's real estate or mortgage brokers? Like, I'm thinking about what are some power partnerships, relationships with certain people who are going to touch those humans in the immigration process as well, that you could also connect with?
For myself, I actually didn't talk to anybody. We just decided to move back, and then we just applied directly. Yeah. But I think what happened in this lady's case is they actually reached out to, most likely than not, most people will reach out to their family members within Canada to say that, hey, I'm coming back. What should I do?
So as far as like a network growth strategy to foreigners to Canada, I think it's going to be really hard to like find them unless they're explicitly saying so, right?
Yeah.
But I think that your better strategy, especially since one of the pieces to the puzzle are Canadian citizens, is that you actually focus on the Canadian citizens, because they have the spouse, right? And it's going to be easier to find Canadian citizen on LinkedIn than it is someone who's not Canadian looking to become a Canadian citizen. And again, this goes back to starting with a net that's pretty wide, because, and building your brand around to Canadian citizens who are active users of LinkedIn, that you are the go-to person from an immigration standpoint for spouses, sponsorship, right? So when this would be kind of a reverse marketing, right? Like, instead of trying to find the person who's not Canadian, I think that you market to the Canadians that you are the go-to for the sponsorship of the non-Canadian, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. How do I find Canadians on LinkedIn?
Just type in Canada. Like one of the things you could do is do you have certain provinces you're interested in doing business in, or is it just the entire?
I think for spousal sponsorship, it doesn't matter which province, but I am located in BC.
Mm-hmm. And then is there a certain demographic within that? Like, do you want to focus on folks in tech since you have a background in tech? What do you want it to look like? Is it any working professional? Like, do you have?
I think for spousal, it really doesn't matter, but I could start with tech, but usually tech, their marriage rate is quite low.
Yeah. So what you could do, I'm just trying to help you narrow it down because you could type in BC, like in the search field.
Okay.
Right. And then you're just going to want to choose some choice professions and titles. So you get lists of working professionals in BC. Right.
Okay.
And then you start growing your network with active users of LinkedIn in that province.
Okay.
Right. That's where I would start. I would actually start by reverse marketing to the spouse that's in Canada because they're going to be easier to find.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm taking up so much time, but what about international students?
Yeah. So I think same thing with the international students. Would it be directly to the students or to the parents?
Okay, there are two possibilities for people that are doing post-secondary. If they're coming here for like undergraduate, more likely than not, it's to their parents who are already on LinkedIn. And those who are thinking of sponsoring themselves to come to Canada, because one of the most effective way, if you are above 30, is to study in Canada first to gain extra points for express entry. So there are the two groups, either the parents or the students themselves, but they will probably be already like in their 30s and above. Right. But if it's the parents, most likely they are already in their 50s, because I got an inquiry from a parent whose kid is already studying in the US. Yeah. So basically those are the two groups.
So what I would consider here, because again, finding the parents whose kids are becoming international students is going to be like a needle in a haystack. But what if you actually did the reverse and started researching and became a power partner to some of these schools that have large international programs? Like, what if you began networking with them and finding out who runs their departments? Like, these kids, where do they get the idea to become an international student? Like, where are they learning about this in university? Who are kind of the advocates of this? Who are the ones that are encouraging these students to go across seas? Or on the flip side, who's on the receiving end of that in Canada that's running the international programs where kids are coming from? I know for me personally, I used to work in a lab at Duke University Medical Center. And there was a large number of Japanese fellows who came straight from Japan. And they would come for a number of years to get their fellowship, and then they go back to Japan. And there was a huge cohort of them. So like finding out and networking with people in universities like that are running these types of programs where these international students are coming in. Those were people in their 30s, right? These were fellows. These weren't like entry-level students. These are people with children and all kinds of stuff. But I would kind of look into how can I collaborate with the schools that have these big programs? How to get into conversations with the decision makers and the folks who are kind of the advocates for these types of programs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me just test out some job titles.
Yeah, it's going to take some research and asking some questions, and even maybe finding some international students who've recently made the transition and asking them, and you may already know, like, what's the process? Who do they work with? Where in the school did they get the idea to do it? I just know, like I said, at Duke University, at the medical center, the research department is like massive with international fellowships. Maybe you start there. I mean, that's not in Canada, right? That's in the US, but I'm sure there's universities just like that in Canada, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And so the last avatar are the international students and international workers who are already in Canada.
Yeah. So again, I think that would be the same connections, like the people who are recruiting students in for that are the same for the students who are already there, right? Otherwise, you're just researching industries where there's a lot of international student programs and you're growing your network on LinkedIn with people who are identified in those programs, like those universities or whatnot. If you know that a particular university has a big international program, again, I still think you could grow your network of students, but I think that getting into conversations with some of the advisors and stuff at the schools is going to give you a lot more insight.
So for international admission will be the people that I should be talking to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that will also help me target future pipeline for spousal sponsorship because these young people will probably get married to someone in their home country.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long-term brand, right? And that's the thing is it's the beginning and the long pipeline. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. I will get working on it and let you know how it goes. Thank you very much.
Awesome. You're welcome. And thanks for coming back and hopping back in the saddle. I know life can give us punches and it's all about just showing back up and staying consistent. So we're glad you're back.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, so much for listening in on today's podcast episode. And I can't wait for you to see my upcoming guest in the next episode. You are going to love this keynote speaker. Hey, here's the deal. If you liked this, please subscribe and leave a review. And you want the latest online business growth strategies and exclusive LinkedIn pro tips sent straight to your phone? Text the word update to 704-318-2285. That is, text the word update to 704-318-2285. Can't wait to see you guys. Come find me over on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you like to hang. I cannot wait to hear how you are enjoying and applying what you're learning. You guys reach out to me over on social because I love hearing what's resonating with you. When you reach out to me and you send me those personal DMs, they really do impact the content I continue to bring forward to you. So again, come find me, Melissa_Hinault over on Instagram, Melissa Hinault over on LinkedIn and Facebook. Can't wait to see you guys over there.